Luke Hopkins, what is the biggest thing you learned coming back from injury?
Wow, right off the rip.
No, what did you have for breakfast? We hop right in. Throw you into the deep end.
I eat pretty much the same meals every single day. So 2 pieces of sourdough toast, 3 whole eggs, 1 egg white, and then half an avocado.
Okay, now that we got the light question out of the way, come back from injury.
The easy layup. Yeah, so this is the first time I've ever dealt with a major sport-related injury since high school. And even there, it was a cracked rib. So that took maybe 2-3 weeks for me to come back from. But with this, it's been truly about not neglecting doing the little things. Like there were so many times in the morning where I'm like immediately waking up late in a rush. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to stretch, or I can just hop right into this workout. But taking my time to warm up my ankle, to go through my dynamic stretching, and then to progress slowly into the workout, as opposed to from the minute I wake up, this instant state of fight or flight. And then it's like, okay, now I have to go right into the workout. So easing into it, and then the bigger metaphor of easing back into the training load that I was doing beforehand, not starting running and immediately expecting me to be back at 60 plus miles, being able to look at my Strava stats and realize that, hey, if I'm running 10 miles in a week, that's more than I was doing last week. So taking that slow progression and just appreciating what my body can do.
You've gotten so monumentously big over the past 2-3 years, and most of the reason people follow you is not just because of your sport, but because of how you talk about your sport. And it's hard to talk about your sport if you're not doing your sport. Was there kind of a hard identity check of oh shoot, maybe I was placing a lot of my worth in my crazy routine I was doing every day in my sport and having a race on the calendar?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely fell into, and as someone who posts my entire life on social media, it does become consuming at times. And when you feel like you hit this rhythm of last year, I raced 7 different times, and I felt like you said, my identity was invested in the idea of performance or just accomplishing races. And when I had that taken away from me, it was a step back, and I definitely did scramble. And it was hard for me to hop on social media at times because I genuinely didn't know what to share. And it took a lot of both self-reflections as well as conversations with people that I look up to, and even conversations with my therapist, just to realize that my identity isn't defined by a single thing, rather how I carry myself and how I treat people. So although this was an unfortunate event and I did embrace the negative emotions that came from it, I didn't allow those to define me, and still chose to try and take on a more positive perspective of, like you said, what can I learn from this? What can I share with others? And now, having gone through an injury and gone through the recovery process, I have people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I was struggling with this, or hey, I've been through this injury, and now I feel like, okay, continuing to share my own experience in this new field of injury and recovery, I can just hopefully help more people. So it does come out to be a positive thing in the end.
We were talking about out there with Matt, shout out Matt, helping set us up here this morning, the distinction between the greats, the best of all time, and their hyper obsession with the sport. And I think I maybe said something out there, but elaborating on it in here, because the people watching were not out there. Essentially, they got really good at one thing by sacrificing nearly everything else in the process. I know you have massive goals, in the sport of triathlon or other pursuits for you personally. How do you view, because I know you're a competitive guy, you want to be great, but how do you view that journey to becoming great without losing yourself and your soul in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't say I have a dead set answer to this question, because I've talked to a lot of people about it before. When you are so dedicated to a goal, you become, at least in my personality, obsessive with it. And I study everything about the sport, and I change around these small things in my life in hopes of them having, even help me save 1 to 2 seconds in a race, because that's just who I am as a person. And the biggest thing that I try and remind myself is that there's a difference between being intentional versus taking things too seriously. When you take things too seriously, that's when it becomes all-consuming. That's when you start to neglect personal relationships or the other aspects of your life. That's when your identity becomes solely tied to the sport. Or on the opposite hand, being intentional is, I'm very focused on my training. My nutrition aligns with that. My sleep aligns with that. The little recovery things that I'm doing, stretching, mobility, physical therapy, all of that aligns with my goal of progressing in the sport, in whatever I am training for. But it doesn't take away from who I am as a human being. It doesn't change my personality, my identity, my core beliefs. Those will always stay dead set. So regardless of my performance, I look at, the 4 Ironman races that I've done. And 3 of the performances were not to the standard that I wanted them to go, but that didn't change who I was. And I kept working. And then as a result, I was able to have a race that, okay, I feel like I'm trending in the right direction now.
Do you ever worry about competing against the people who are fully obsessed? Obviously, you never trade lives with them, but that crazy hyper obsession might garner them better results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it comes down to is the idea of just being great. And I've talked about this before, but there is certain timelines that we are set to follow as human beings. And I realize that if I am continuously looking over at someone else's timeline, that's when injury happens. That's when burnout happens, because I'm in a constant comparison with someone else. Versus if I'm just trusting my plan that God sets out for me as a Christian, like I truly do believe that whatever happens in my life is supposed to happen exactly that way. And I just try and embrace it and control my emotions. That's what I just focus on. So if it comes down to me getting beat out every single time, I'm okay with that. As long as I know I'm giving my best effort, as long as I know that every single day in training, I'm showing up for the sake of myself and seeing individual progress, as opposed to, oh, let me check his Strava stats, or what are these swim splits like in this race, and how do mine align with them? Like, obviously there is that cross reference when you are trying to be competitive, but it's like we said, if that becomes all consuming, that's when my identity becomes gone, to be quite honest.
Yeah. We live in I know you're a bit older than me, but we live in an interesting age where, again, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as like influencers. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as like hybrid athlete, or even it was rare to be sponsored or be paid by companies that weren't the traditional Nike, Under Armour, Hoka now, On now. And those are very, like, even to this day, pretty traditional, where it's like you're one of the fastest marathoners, 10K, 5K, mile, 800 guys. If you're fast enough, you'll get a base contract. Like, you live in a 0.001% world of a dozen people who kind of fit this niche, where it's like you're really, really good at your sport. You're also really, really good at influencing people, and you can get paid as a result of that. Is it hard managing potential pressure of thinking like, okay, I need to do this race, or I need to be great in order for people to follow me or brands to want me or like me, because you don't, want to go work a 9-to-5 that you love in your life?
Yeah. To start off with, I always try and explain how grateful I am to be in this position, because I realize, like you said, the 0.001%, I'm very lucky. I've worked very hard, but I realize this opportunity is something that is not present to everyone. So that's what really compels me to train as hard as I do and trying to compete as much as I do, because I realize this is an opportunity that one day I'm going to look back on and be like, wow, I can't believe that I had the privilege of doing this in my early 20s. And for however long I get to do this, I want to be able to make the most of it. But like you are saying, there is that external pressure that I definitely do think comes with social media. But to be quite honest, I'm very fortunate that the brands that I do work with, they're so extremely supportive. And I think this injury was a big reflection point for me, because I realized I got injured and none of these brands dropped me. And that's what I realized when I was just like, okay, my affiliation and the support that I have isn't solely tied to my athletic performance. Obviously, that does play a factor, but it's more so about the fact that I've shared my life. I've been authentic and genuine in sharing my progressions through any sport that I've done. And the documentation of my life on social media is what it has allowed me to develop these relationships and these support systems. So that's often something that I try and remind myself is, if I'm going down the rabbit hole of creating content or doing these races for the sake of external validation, I've lost the plot. Versus if I am intrinsically motivated and am pursuing these individual goals for the sake of wanting to be able to look back on these moments and be proud of them, that's what's aligned with my character.
First part of your response there, talking about, looking back one day, kind of realizing right now you're living in answered prayers. Is that actually what goes on in your head? Because that's what I tell myself. But, dude, I'm always chasing the next thing. And I have to sit down and remind myself, like, okay, a year from now, or better yet, example, I look back a year ago and I'm like, the list, top 5 coolest things I got to do. Oh, my gosh. Can't believe that I got to do those things. In the moment, I didn't really care. I was running with Mark Zuckerberg and, like, worried about the podcast I was going to record, like, 2 days later. Looking back, I'm like, I ran with Mark Zuckerberg. Are you kidding me? That was so cool. In the moment, it's not that I didn't care, but I really didn't appreciate it to the extent I now do in the future. It's like we don't realize we're living in the good old days right now as we speak. So do you actually feel that sense of gratitude, or are you like me where it's like, you almost realize 6 months later how good you had it, and then you're like, shoot, I really should have appreciated it back then.
Yeah, there are definitely moments where I have to catch myself and being like, dude, look where your feet are. Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast has a great quote, and it's, the golden days only exist in the past. And it's exactly like you're saying. You don't realize just how much you value where you have gotten to in the moment until it has passed. So yeah, there is a lot of times where even my girlfriend will catch me and she's like, hey, slow down a sec. You know, like you're moving at 100 miles per hour and you're right where you wished you wanted to be. So it's like having these conversations where it's these other individuals who are pursuing goals, or when I'm talking to someone and they're telling me about the races that they want to train for and sign up for, and I'm able to step in their shoes for a moment and think back to when I was in their position of starting out 70.3 Ironman training. I'm like, oh, like I remember the first time I got my bike trainer and I set up Zwift for the first time and how excited I was. And now I hop on Zwift and I'm like, you know what?
Think about it.
Yeah, exactly. But then it makes me kind of reevaluate, and it's like, you know what? Maybe I will enjoy this 2.5 trainer ride today, because there was a time when I would see that and be intimidated by it. And now I'm fortunate enough that I've worked up to be able to do that casually. And that's, I think, a bigger metaphor for this whole process of just like being in the BPN HQ right now, recording this podcast with you. If you would have told me this like a year ago, it's surreal. And to just be able to take a moment to reflect on it, like you say, catch yourself, I think that's super important.
Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be?
That is a phenomenal question. I think I can only speak like short term in regards to social media and athletic feats. Obviously, I want to see how far I can pursue triathlon before potentially trying out ultra marathons or high rocks, you know, just something down the road, because as an individual, I love the idea of being challenged by something, and I try and live by the mantra of open to growth. So anytime I share something and someone comments like, oh, you could be doing this better, it's never, oh, this criticism, like they're trying to attack me. It's, oh, cool, like there is something that I can be doing better. So the idea of accepting new challenges, trying new things, you know, seeing the G1M Ultra this past weekend, the last man standing, so motivating for me. And it makes me think, maybe, you know, I could sign up for this one day. So in regards to athletic feats, and I guess social media then ties into continuing to share my journey in my training, both physically and emotionally and mentally with all that. But I think long-term, I would love to go back to school. I pursued a Bachelor of Arts degree in neuroscience with a minor in psychology, and I was so interested, and still am extremely interested, in human performance and specifically sports psychology. I would love to one day work with high school and college athletes and just to help them develop a better identity of self, you know, allow them to have that identity separate from sport, because especially with NIL these days, I feel like there is so much neglect of these kids' mental health, because it's just, oh, how can I make so much money playing a sport, or how do I progress to the next area of this field? So if I can allow them to develop a better perception of themselves, I would love to do that.
Have you ever heard of the guy Jeff Troach?
I've not.
Okay, I got to connect you to him. I just had him on my podcast. Someone on my team recommended I get him on, and I think subconsciously it sat in my head, because then I reached out, and Matt on my team was like, oh, you reached out? I was like, I honestly didn't remember you referred him. But he just, this was in the like guest prep notes for me, and it was so crazy. I thought Matt made a typo. Because it was just insane. He's worked with it, and so I was like, Jeff, is this a typo, or are you really this goated? He's worked with an athlete at every Olympics, 1988 Olympics to present day. So he's been in the game for like over 40 years, and he works with like the best in every sport. So I'll have to make that connection offline, because I think he could be a good guy to talk to, because he really combines like your love for sport and psychology. And I think what's cool with him is he works with Olympians, but he also works with like high school kids, which is fascinating. So speaking of just like going after something, you know, if you were to talk to one of those kids who's in a position to like get an NIL, how would you speak to them in terms of like, you're really great at what you do, but you're not what you do, and this is just something you happen to do, and it's great to go all in and try and be great at something, but that doesn't mean it has to consume you like entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I've actually it's crazy to think I'm 23 and I've only been posting on social media for 3 years now, but sometimes I feel like I'm, you know, unk in the fitness space at times when I'm talking to these new creators who getting out there. And I talk to these guys, I'm like, hey, brands will come to you and they will pitch you and they will offer you probably more money than you've ever seen. And short term, that could be super enticing, but you have to think you are developing a personal brand here, and who you affiliate yourself with, these brands, these companies, like that becomes your reputation. That's your resume right there that you are building. Your Instagram is your resume when you are, this social media presence. So making sure that you are tying yourself specifically to brands that you really align with, both, on the physical level of, are you actually using these running shoes, as well as in like the core beliefs of like, what is this brand's vision? What do they stand for? So that's what I think I can most relate to right now. I think with NIL, it is difficult for me to speak on that because I'm not an agent. So being able to negotiate contracts and stuff like that.
You do that though. It's just your age is different. That's
I guess
where I'd push back. I'd be
yeah.
like, it's exactly what you do, just a different age range.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think especially, and the reason why I'm inclined to work with high school and college athletes is because the prefrontal cortex, the area of your brain involved in like higher cognitive processing, is still very malleable and developing up until you are, estimated 25 years old. So you and we still got time to go.
Still got time to be smart.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like that's when you are the most impressionable. You think back to when you were in high school or, around that age range, and you hear anything and you immediately believe it. Or, there's so many different influences or ideas that really do capture you. And money, I think, is unfortunately a big driver of a lot of people, or even notoriety, and especially these younger kids, these younger athletes who are just looking to continue to progress. They do have to. It would help to be able to guide them and just be like, hey, like let's take our time with this. Just because you see a dollar sign, just because you see a big name, like, are they using your name, image, and likeness in the way in which you want to be represented for potentially the rest of your life?
And it's also like a business partnership. I'm sure you feel that way with the brands you work with now, but it's like a mini marriage, and it's like you want it to inevitably be a long-term thing that goes really well for both parties, parties happy. And that's why anytime I work with a brand, it's like, can I get to know the people behind the brand? I say this with BPN all the time. The supplements are great. You and I both use them. You probably more than me because you work out 1,700 times a day. But it's like, even if the supplements were mediocre, which they aren't, the people behind it, I would still work with them in a heartbeat because of who they are, what they stand for, the things they do, the way they give back. And it's like, those are the type of brands you want to be associated with as a younger kid. Not the ones where it's just a check and then you never hear from them, or they're like abusive, which there are some business relationships that are like that, where like you get taken advantage of, you don't read the fine print on contracts. It's like, even me to this day, sometimes I have a hard time reading contracts. It's like, if this is me, a 14-year-old's cooked,
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. And like you were saying with BPN in particular, I definitely do think like there is that distinction with, I don't know if a lot of people realize, but the team is a lot smaller. The company's a lot smaller than people may realize. And being able to have that personal connection, to understand like it is true human beings behind the brand, not just people that are looking, how do you push the most product? It's like, no, like, yes, these are good products, but it's like, you as an individual, that's what we believe in. That's what we want to support. And then it becomes mutual, where it's just like, the people that work here, those are the people that I want to work for. Those are the people that I want to work with.
Big name now in this sort of run. I mean, influencer, I think, is the lowest jab you could give someone like you. How would you define yourself in a word? Athlete?
One word. Like, I want to say athlete, just because I put so much effort into that right now, and it's something that I've always wanted to be. I played sports my entire life, a variety of different sports, but yeah, athlete is definitely one of them. I like the idea of maybe motivator, as I try to share a lot of just my own life experience and just the advice that I would give to a younger version of myself.
So we'll go with athlete motivator. You're one of the biggest in the space. When did you know that you would be great, and did you feel it at a young age, knowing like, okay, I'm made for greatness and I know that I will be known one day?
That's a great question. I think it was right. I mean, I can give you the date. I was 12 years old. It was April of 2015, so almost 11 years ago, just about. It was when my dad, unfortunately, underwent a pretty severe accident, and it really shaped my family dynamic. And I was 12 years old at the time, like I said. And I kind of developed this mental perception of myself that I was going to be someone that just worked extremely hard, because I really, to be quite honest, feared the idea of being victimized in my own life. Like, so many people were coming up to me like, I'm so sorry, like, your family, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, no, I'm good. Like, and I'm going to continue to be good. So that's what really motivated me to try and pursue, a perfect GPA in high school, be a 2-sport captain. Then once I got a full ride to USC for academics, I was like, okay, I'm not just going to be here. I'm going to try and, do as well as I can, try and contribute as much as I can. I'm just an individual that I look at, and it's about giving 110% effort. And when I started posting on social media in January of 2023, my junior year of college, it was the quick turnaround. Within the first 6 months of me posting, I had gained 100,000 followers on TikTok, which was mind blowing to me. I didn't like realize just how insane that was until now, 3 years later. And you know, the progression's definitely slowed, but yeah, I definitely do think me sharing that journey, once I started posting on social media and realizing people were resonating with what I was saying, and that I was able to actually start helping people at that point in time, because up until then it was very inner circle. I was talking to my friends, maybe the people I was meeting at school, and those are the people that I was helping out. And then it became, okay, now that I've developed this, you know, internet persona, this, you know, brand, this personal brand, now I can help other people outside of it. And that's what's really been what's made me reflect and realize, like, yeah, like maybe I can do something super special with this.
How different do you think your life would be if that accident didn't happen? And real quickly, for those who watching haven't seen BPN, they've done a ton of videos on you, but I think like the original ones, they did encapsulate that story really well, better than we could in this podcast. So I recommend the audience checks those out for sort of the fuller picture and story on that. But 12 years old, had that not happened, do you think your life would be on a radically different trajectory?
Like, it's so hard to say.
Like, do you think that event is what lit the fire under you that got you to where you are today and who you are today?
I honestly do.
Yeah.
I really honestly do. Like I said, like I'd played sports my whole life, but I didn't really, you know, I just kept like always being like, I'm a kid, you know, and that because this really only happened when I was 12, you know, before I'd even become a teenager. But after that point, it was, I'm going to be the hardest worker I can. And I think if you asked any of the people that I went to high school with, any of the people I went to college with, any of my friends right now, the way, like if there was one way to describe me, it would just be hard worker, like someone who just relentlessly has a good work ethic. And I hope that doesn't come across as like egotistical, but it's just like who I am. It's like I'm almost stubborn in the process of being like, I'm not just going to do something for the sake of doing it. I'm going to do it, study it, learn how to get better at it, and continue to progress with it until I am at my max capacity, and then I will find something else to continue to pursue.
What negative impacts do you think came as a result of that mindset of like 12 years old? That's a lot of pressure for a 12-year-old to feel like I need to like work. Basically, let me pose this and shoot me down if it's misconstruing words. Like as a 12-year-old, again, so if you were in front of a 12-year-old right now, you'd be like, you're teeny tiny, you have no clue what the world is. And if you know, it's a tough thing where it's like that mindset probably got you to where you are today, but maybe there were costs along the way where you equate your value with your work. Did you ever feel that at all?
100%. And this is actually like the biggest thing that I'm addressing with my therapist right now, is that I definitely do think my identity, like I didn't have I don't want to say freedom, because my parents like and my family was still super supportive and they wanted me to have as normal as an upbringing as possible following that situation. But I became so inclined to just being so driven that it became hard for me to relate to other people at my age at times. And I've often been told that I'm mature for my age, or, you know, wise beyond my years. And while I definitely do think that is a compliment, a lot of times it was frustrating because I just wanted to be normal. And then there would be another part of me that's like, no, you have to like work harder. And it was this constant back and forth where it's like, I wish I could fit in. I wish I could relate to the other kids that are talking about age, about whatever they're doing. But then in my mind, I'm like, there's more to be done.
100%. I'm trying to find this quote, but I don't think I can find it quick enough. But it's a Chris Williamson quote about basically praise and affirmation. I'll try to find it in a second. But essentially, like as a kid, we learn, because what you're saying there, I heavily relate to, and I've worked with my therapist exactly through a similar model. So it's funny where it's like, as a kid, you learn praise and affirmation. You want to do things that get affirmed. You don't do things that don't get affirmed. So for me, I've been running from the age of 5. Did I run throughout middle school because I truly loved it, or was just something that I was really good at? And so naturally, adults, parents, siblings, that's what they're going to praise and affirm you for. Mm-hmm. If you get praise and affirmation for the things that you're seemingly good at, then you internalize it as maybe I'm only valuable for the things that I do, rather than actually just being affirmed and praised for who I actually am. And it's funny because I have this conversation with my girlfriend all the time. like I'm the type of person, at least if you're really close with me, like in that relationship where it's like I crave affirmation at such a deep level because I don't think I got it enough as a kid. And I think I only got it in the things that I was like, quote unquote, good at. And I think an old head would listen and be like, well, that, why would you be praised or affirmed for things that you aren't good at? But at least when I'm a dad one day, like I'm excited to, and my parents are great people. They did the best they could and they're amazing. I love them. But I'm going to try to do a better job of like praising and affirming my kids for who they are and not what they do, and say like, you are enough without this thing. Because I think as kids, we, again, with that sort of model, only being praised and affirmed for like the things we do that are good, grades, sports, scoring the game-winning shot, being the cool kid, wearing cool clothes, having a following, like you quickly associate your value with your worth. And we're all born, I believe as a Christian, with the same inherent dignity and worth. Mm-hmm. I think value can be a different thing, like the value you bring to the world, but I think you and I both conflate value with worth very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you familiar with Angela Duckworth's book Grit?
Yep. Yeah, big time.
So she talks about how her father would often ask her and her siblings at dinner, like, what did you fail at today? And I think that's so important, like you're saying, like as a hopeful parent one day, like to make sure your kid knows like, hey, it's okay to try and to come up short of your goals, because that doesn't define you. That's not the only thing that we're looking for here. It's the effort. It's how you then shape your life following that result in order to, see progress. And I think this also relates to sometimes social media posting and the content creation aspect world, because a lot of people might tie their identity to engagement or to a video doing well. And it might not even be a video that they fully agree with or align with, but then they're like, okay, now I'm going to post something that I really am passionate about, and it might not perform as well. And then they start to think, okay, do people only like me for these type of videos or this type of content? Like we had talked about, like, are people only liking me because of my race performances, or are they supporting me wholeheartedly? So that's always something that I try and reflect back on, is like the content in which I do share, I want it to be holistically myself, because that's what I want people to appreciate or acknowledge, is who I am as a human being, not just what I'm producing result-wise.
Giving up on finding the quote. I'll send it to you
You're
after.
good. You were so at it.
I was so tried and locked in. One of my gifts is like remembering the like first sentence of a quote. I'll look it up and find it, but today is not my day. How do you, differentiate those things where it's like, if you were some super slowpoke guy, it's almost like there's a threshold for being good enough that people start to care. It's like, and I think you'd agree with me, it's rare that like people who get big are like worse than nearly everyone else. Generally they're better, and that's why people follow them, because it's like unique enough. It's like if everyone was running sub 10 Ironmans, you wouldn't stand out as much. So how do you separate those things where it's like, okay, I know how fast I run, how fast I swim, whatever you'd say for an Ironman, like matters to an extent, but I'm probably over the hump of like acceptable greatness that people will already follow me regardless of how I do.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but I think this is where it becomes so important to show the progress or show the process throughout everything. And I've talked about this a lot with some of the BPN guys before, but they talk about how in video analytics of some of the things that they produce, the training videos often do better at times than just the end result videos.
It's crazy.
Because people relate to that significantly more. They're like, okay, like I might not have the objective results of this Ironman finish time or, this marathon finish time, but when I see him going for a track workout and it's something that I could potentially emulate the workout itself, not necessarily the direct results and pacings, that's what I find more relatable to. And it just comes down to then sharing the bigger picture of, okay, like, what outside of my life am I sharing? I have a dog now. People who have dogs, like, oh, now I can relate to you. And it's just making sure that you're showing, as scary it is, like as much of your life as possible. If you do want to share on social media, I think that is such a positive thing, because once you become more inclined to documenting your life versus sharing content, people feel like they get to know you significantly more. And then when I do meet these people in public and when I am having these conversations in person, it's like, oh, you're a real human being. And, oh, I almost feel like I know you already. And it's just like I'm talking to a friend because you've been so authentic. And then I could then focus the conversation on getting to know them better, and it becomes very mutual.
My mentor shared this with me June 9th, 2023. Thank the good Lord I found a quote this time. So this was right after I moved to Austin to take a quote-unquote gap year. Ended up, turning this into a full-time thing very quickly. So it wasn't much of a gap year, more of just a full-time job. Moved here in June. So this was right after I moved here. I think this quote is remarkable. I think it will ruffle maybe your feathers a little bit. So I want to hear your your response, but I think there are threads of truth that you'll appreciate. So the quote is, social media influencers often find it fun and exciting at first, but then their entire lives become commercializing their identity on a personality marketplace. For most, but not all, professional influencing ends up with emptiness and misery.
For most, but not all, I definitely do think can be the case because, and like, I would be lying if I said there wasn't times when I become frustrated with social media because I hit a creativity gap and it's like, I don't know what to share. Or it's like, maybe I share something and it doesn't do as well as I thought it was and becomes, oh, are people suddenly not as interested in me? Is my time done? I've gone down the spiral of hopping on LinkedIn and being like, all right, let's find it out. Like I have, it's very real. And I just really try and lean into my faith in those type of moments and realize like, hey, like as soon as God decides my time is done doing this, it's my time.
Numbers will go down.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's when it's my sign to maybe go back to school or maybe reflect inward and being like, am I still being truthful to how I'm documenting my life and how I'm sharing things? So yeah, that quote is definitely right. It's super fun at first when your first video blows up. And
yep.
Oh my goodness, all these comments are coming in and it's so exciting.
Like a whole state follows you or a whole city follows you in numbers.
You try and, get a perception of what seeing 100,000 people in person looks like. And it's like, that's the entire Michigan Big House Stadium, like it's nuts. Yeah, my bad. Oh, dude, that was the worst thing I could have said. My bad. I just knew that they usually can say, I'll say UT, Ford Stadium. But yeah, it definitely leaves you at times questioning just how long this can last for. And I've talked about this with my girlfriend a lot, but it feels fragile at times to have your identity be invested in how much strangers choose to support you. And at any point they can decide your time is done. So just being grateful throughout it all.
That's such a funny wording, but it is 100% true.
Yeah, it's really like your success on social media comes down to how people, most of the time, like you will not meet them in person. I'm very fortunate where like when I do go to these expos or when I do go to the ultra and there's these people that are crew and their friends and I get to meet them in person, and that's what I really value and I love, because then it's like I can put a face to a name that's been supporting me for years. Even when, I see guys wearing my hat on social media, I'm like, this is so cool. And it's so fulfilling to me. But yeah, like a significant amount of success on social media comes down to how people you will never meet in person choose to either like or dislike you.
As you get to know me more, you'll understand I don't give a frick what people think about me. I say it how I see it. So I'll say this, and Alex Earl's not going to watch this podcast, but if someone wants to clip this in a good story, that's okay. That quote, like social media influencers tend to be miserable. I look at someone like her, who I'm sure you know who that is, someone like her or the people in that sphere, and I'm like, you're so dead inside. I'm sorry. You're so dead inside. It's like you can just tell, and I don't know if you agree or disagree. Specifically on TikTok, I feel like specifically. It's just like your heart's not in it and you're just chasing. As a Christian, I'm like, you need Jesus. Like you need something to ground you. But that's where I always feel bad, specifically for the girls who, again, you're my neuron guy. So you're going to be a neurosurgeon one day and you can explain this all to me one day. But like girls struggle more with the comparative piece, more with the like, viewing what people think of them, all of that sort of thing. And I think like the it girl in 2026 all over your TikTok feed, I have such a heart for those people, because what you're doing is you're essentially documenting what you're already doing, right? But like for these specifically girls, I think, who put themselves on social media, like the girl influencers, I'm like, it's basically a competition for like who can wear the least amount of clothes and look cool and get a ton of comments and likes and have enough tea that you're interesting, but not enough that you go overboard. It's maybe I'm being off the cuff, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you shoot it as it is. Where's it? What I look at this is, at least in like the fitness influencer space, I've done bodybuilding, I've done powerlifting, I've done marathons, Ironman. So I've met a number of different individuals that post on social media in different sports. And there have been times where I've met these people who might have a big internet personality, might be extremely extroverted online or, very loud in their opinions. And then in person, they're a little more recluse, or they don't even give you the time of day. And I've talked to a lot of people that support me before, and I'm very fortunate that something that they often say is, oh, you're the exact same in person as you are online.
Great compliment.
Yeah, it's so helpful. But it's unfortunate when I meet other influencers who, younger kids look up to and they try to emulate, or they try and follow, or they try and create content like, and they don't, translate in real life. That's what I look at. And that's like, I feel bad for those people, because it's like, what's not connecting there? Is there some type of insecurity, or like how can you believe in yourself more, or just like have your content align with like who you truly are? If you are a quieter, more introverted person, like that is totally okay. No one's asking you to be the loudest person in every single room, but just make sure you're exemplifying yourself in that way, so that when people do meet you in person, it's truthful to who you truly are.
And to the word influencer, right? People can hate on it, but it actually, I think, is a really cool term to be called influencer. But what we don't realize is you and I are both influencers. The person at home's an influencer, at least within their immediate circle. What do we mean when we talk about influence? There's good influence and there's bad influence. My issue with an Alex Earl or a Alex Cooper or I'm sure there's some whack dudes as well. I'm not just trying to pin it on one gender at all. It's like their messaging, I don't see how it's positive, versus your content. You watch it and it's like, you're clearly influencing people for good. Who knows? Maybe there's a video back in the day you influence someone for bad. Okay, that's going to happen. Yeah. But like 99% of your content, all the content I've ever seen from you, you're encouraging people, you're motivating people, you're inspiring people, you're documenting your chase of greatness, which is inspiring. A lot of good is going to come from that. And I would say to anyone listening or watching, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, it's like, if you're going to get into social media, get into it for reasons that aren't outcome based. In the TikTok average it girl who does their, $1,000 makeup routine, it's like, what are you actually influencing?
Yeah.
Are you just gossiping and like making other people feel bad about themselves and their bodies? Or are you like going to do some hard shit and you're documenting it and you're like, go do something hard with your life today? And I think that's really important. And you don't need a camera if you're the listener. You don't need a camera to have influence. How do you talk to your friends? How do you talk about yourself to your friends? How do you, influence, inspire, whatever it might be? It has a drastic effect. And that's why I always... Like, I had one kid reach out last year who was like, you were one of the reasons I didn't take my life. Just the conversations you had were super inspiring. And I was like, whoa, okay, what I do has a lot of meaning and purpose, and what I say matters. And those kids, of which stats show it's just getting worse and worse, like suicidal thoughts, depression, etc. It's just like they need more people who they need more Luke Hopkins in their life on their feed, right? Yeah. Because those are the type of people who are actually going to make them not just feel good about themselves, but I think something you do and the other people in your circle do is like you enable people to do hard things. It's not just like, here's me and my greatness, but it's like, hey, go do your own version of what I'm doing.
Yeah. First of all, if I haven't said it yet, I really appreciate all the kind things that you say about me. Really does mean a lot. Second of all, that is second of all, that is such a massive, I hope you are immensely proud of the influence that you are having on people, to have that just one conversation, however many it is, like you are saving someone's life and you are changing the trajectory of their life by what you are choosing to share about your own. Like that is such a massive deal. And I feel like that's what a lot of people who might post on social media neglect at times, is you could potentially change someone's entire life based on what you're choosing to share. And that's why I think it's so important to just try and provide positivity, because I like I said, I've been posting on social media for 3 years now, 3+ years. And I've almost seen, it definitely does seem right now that there is more of an inclination to be negative on social media and just to I don't know, try and pin
Gossip
people
gets
against.
Clicks.
Yeah, exactly. It's really people live for that drama, celebrity drama. Anytime you go to the grocery store and you see the magazines and stuff like that, our version of that in today's day and age is TikTok drama and these videos that just, they name drop and they blow up, and it's unfortunate. And I definitely do just want to encourage anyone out there, like you said, you can be an influencer to anyone, because as human beings, we become inclined to act like those we choose to surround ourselves with. And with the immense popularity in social media, TikTok, Instagram, the content that you are consuming starts to become who you are surrounding yourself with, especially if you are avidly following a specific creator and what they are consistently sharing. That's a huge influence to your character, what you choose to believe in. So being very mindful of that and trying to, I do it more times than not. If I see a video that I don't like I hit not interested, and I'm just I don't want anything like that, because there have been times in my life where I've gone down the rabbit hole of checking Reddit or these people that are making negative videos about brands I'm associated with, or even myself. And it becomes, these people are having a personal attack on me. I feel the need to, prove myself. And then it's I'm going to take a deep breath. I recently did post a video just kind of just standing up for myself, because I definitely do think, as someone who looks to inspire younger individuals, like
I was entertained by that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. But I definitely do think that there's a difference between, gossiping, firing back, and, trying to counter bully versus sticking up for yourself. And that's what I want to, I feel like sticking up for myself aligns with what I'm trying to encourage people. Like, stand up for yourself in your own life, whether that means getting your physical health in check, whether that means auditing your inner circle and surrounding yourself with people that are going to continue to push you, whether that means, changing the trajectory of your life and being like, hey, like, I want to go from I don't want to be here to I do want to be here, and I want to, help others to feel that same way. That's what I really try and motivate other individuals to do.
Yeah, I love that. What you did in that video was, as you said, you didn't cross bully. Like, you just stated the facts as you saw it. You responded to things that were said about you, but you didn't belittle the guy who posted those things about you. No. You weren't like, you're some small creator, blah, 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 blah. It was just like, you stuck to the facts of that. I do want to ask you, not, need to necessarily comment on, the videos that guy was making. I don't even remember his name. Otherwise I would name him, no problem. But it is, I think, something that gets talked a lot about in your circles. No glaze. Please don't go after me in the comments. But like, you on social media, right? A lot of your content's fitness. You look better than 99.9% of the population. You're faster than 99.9% of the population. And people will always hate on things that they themselves don't have. It's why when I didn't go to college, I threatened everyone who goes to college. All the boomers were pissed off at me, right? Because I threatened their way of life, their way of thinking. Obviously, go to Lift ATX. People are peptide out of their mind. TRT are out of their mind. I don't even know half these drugs. And so there are the examples of people who take shortcuts or whatever it might be, however they view it. I'm not totally sure. They're not in front of me. Can you talk about, how hard you've worked to get the body you have, and maybe just the whole conversation around, people seeing you on social media and being like, he's too good to be true. He must be taking a shortcut. Because, by the way, I know you're probably not too involved in like serious track and field running, scrawniest looking dudes ever, but they'll get accused of the same if they're really fast. And sure, some people dope, but vast majority I think don't. If you're faster than most people, they'll get the same accusations. Happens in every sport. So what are your thoughts on that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to be quite honest with you, I've been doing YouTube 10-minute ab workouts since I was in 7th grade, that 12-year-old mark. And I think that's the tough thing with social media sometimes is you're scrolling, you see a video of someone and you're like, oh, they look this certain way. And that's your first impression of them, which like can be a really good thing if you look good, but they don't see the potential years of work that you've put into it. I've been lifting weights for 10 years now and I'm 23 years old, So
it's almost like if you didn't have results, you should be pissed.
Yeah, I would be pretty frustrated if I didn't look at, but like obviously the way in which I've trained has changed around based on what my goals are. I go from lifting 6 days a week to now I'm lifting 2 days a week, and it's all lower body focus. I'm trying to lose upper body mass to be faster in the sport. So like that's how I think about it, is like I'm changing around my training based on what I am training for. But what I was going back to saying is that like there is that immediate neglect of how much both mental and physical progression you have made over the years just because of social media. And it's so quick, and they'll see that video and they'll swipe past and they're like, see that video in a second, they're like, oh, like I don't believe that, too good to be true. But like they don't know, like this person could come from, a pro level. You look at rugby players and they're some of the most built guys in the world and they're doing insane amounts of endurance, and then they go over and people are like, oh, there's no way this physical, this physique is accomplishment. And it's like, no, like you just don't know what they've been able to accomplish. I do find it unfortunate that some individuals, especially nowadays with like the prevalence of peptides, to each their own. If you choose to use them, feel free to. I don't believe in any type of exogenous substance. I don't think, like, to my character of for the past 11 years, just working as hard as I can in every single aspect of my life, that I could ever see myself finding reason to do anything like that. But these like younger kids now, like these perfectly healthy 20-year-olds, where it's like, I want to take X, Y, and Z peptides because it could accelerate my process or progress. And then you're like, you're forgetting the whole point.
Yep.
The whole point is like how you change your life and who you become in the process of achieving physical results, whether it be a specific time in a race, whether it be, a percent body fat that you're looking to achieve, whatever your goals are. Like there's a reason why people say good things take time. Like that's an age old quote. And that goes to anything in life. If there's ever this immediate gratification, it's so fleeting. And if you are just always choosing to go from one thing to the next and just like how quick I can get there, you lose the importance of the human experience, in my opinion.
And also to the 20-year-old you're mentioning, like, are you just doing it to look good? And if that's the case, you're probably making your body an idol and you're probably remarkably vain. Like, if the only reason, sure, it's not bad to want to look good, but if the only reason you're doing something is to look good, I think you should have a hard conversation with yourself in the mirror. You know, there's so much more to life than just like how you look physically for other people.
I agree. So that's the point is, are you doing it for other people or are you doing it to feel good within your own body? Because
Sure.
I think if you are training to then be like satisfied with the way in which you look in the mirror, as long as you're doing it in a healthy manner, like I definitely do think that could be a positive thing, because if someone gets in good physical shape, it then shapes their mental perception of themselves. And then they could start to be like, okay, like my identity isn't entirely defined by how I look, but like this was the means in which I used to get here now, and it's like, where do I pivot from here? That's what I think. It's like intrinsic motivation.
What percent of people do you think actually fit that though? Because I think the people,
very few.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sell themselves. Even myself, like getting in the gym more the last year, it's like, okay, I want to look really good for myself, X, Y, Z. But the second you go to a gym, you're comparing yourself to other. That's how human beings work.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
I mean,
I'm sure you felt this. Like, there will be a day in the gym where you feel like the man. You're like, I look so good, pump's going great. And then the next day, you'll be around some jack dude, and you're like, wow, I'm so small and scrawny.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth coming from, a bodybuilding background. Like, I've seen myself at 5.8% body fat, according to a DexaFit scan, and look pretty damn good, I'm not trying to brag, but I was just, like, cool. And now going back to the gym and like looking at these guys who are solely focused on bodybuilding, it's like, maybe I'll keep my shirt on today, stuff like that. But then you just gotta check yourself right there, like we had talked about earlier. Just like put yourself where your feet are. Like, I'm not trying to achieve that right now. Like, what is my own individual goal? And that's where you have to have that self-auditing. And then additionally, like, as human beings, it's a blessing and a curse, but we have, thousands of thoughts every single second. And like the idea of human cognition, we're forming opinions, we're constantly looking at other individuals, and it's draining and it's tiring. And you constantly have to remind yourself, hey, this is for me. Hey, this is my life. I can't get caught up in those around me.
The Luke Hopkins effect. We're buddies. You have the effect. It's the running effect.
There you go, man.
Might have to mesh one day.
Yeah.
Luke Hopkins effect goes beyond TikTok, Instagram last year. By the way, which do you like more on the record, TikTok or Instagram Reels?
So it's two different. I would say TikTok for sure, for like
Really?
just scrolling purposes.
Okay.
But I look at things in different ways. Like, I don't post that many Reels. Instagram is like my resume. TikTok is just my
Post
journal,
anything.
like
Air
out my thoughts. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Throw bagels at the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say TikTok, because it almost requires like less energy for me mentally when it comes to like what I am putting out, and I can be a little bit more laxed.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this trend kind of happens, and I think what you've encapsulated that I want to ask you about is this remarkable community engagement. I mean, I literally will bring you up on meetings with brands. You don't know this. I'll bring you up on meetings with brands, either telling people to work with you or reference your page. At least on Instagram, I'm just more on Instagram, so I don't know about TikTok. Like, your engagement, you never have an off post. Like, every post is getting 10K likes. It's crazy. Like, most people's feeds fluctuate crazy. So I think you have the CMO of Instagram in your back pocket, because every post does well. And what that shows, I think, is just you have a hyper engaged following. You could put out a picture of bread and it would probably get 10,000 likes. How have you developed such a community throughout the years?
Once again, like, I really appreciate you saying that, and also the dropping me to other brands. Like, I appreciate that. And I want to be completely honest. Like, I still post on Instagram, and then I will put my phone down. It's almost like when you're in middle school and you send a risky text, and then you just start doing random. Like, I do that. Like I realize how lucky I am to have so much support. But it still like gets in my head at times. And I'm like, okay, like, I need to remind myself that I'm not solely tied to just how much this video is going to get likes or like how this post is going to perform. I have to walk away. But it's my biggest lesson that I've been trying to share with these younger content creators, or these guys that are similar to my age but are getting into content, is I've focused so much on documenting my life that people feel connected to me on a human-to-human level. Like, my content that performs the best is the content that is the most me, and like I had mentioned before, the Luke Hopkins effect came from after one of my Ironman attempts, Ironman Texas, that I felt like I failed. Like, I was so disappointed with my race results from that, and other people were like, he still tried, he worked so hard, he's changed for that. Like, that motivates me. And that was like the eye-opening moment, is that people aren't just following me for the sake of my race results. And that's something that I really do appreciate. but it's something that I think I've taken a lot of pride in building over the years since I first started sharing on social media. Is I've been very much so myself, and that's something that I will hope to continue to do. And if you ever see me not doing that, feel free to call me out on it. But that's what I really encourage to anyone that's looking to share their life on social media or develop, a social media presence, be able to pursue, I don't know what this is called, but my athletic career where I get, to train every single day. It's a privilege, but like make sure it is you and what you're actually doing for yourself. Like we had talked about, like, am I doing all this training? Am I doing this competition because I want to get paid by brands and, I just want everyone to think I'm exceptional at what I do? Or am I doing it because I'm genuinely passionate about it? And I realize that there is a bigger picture and that I can use the means of the athletic competitions that I'm, participating in to inspire positive life changes outside of sport.
What take over the years or thing you've said has ruffled the most feathers?
I don't know if it's necessarily a take or it's just the way in which I look in and now like doing endurance competitions. So many people after Arizona were just, I don't want to say angry or upset, but they were like, there's no way that someone who looks like that, and like 9:17, it's a good time, but it's not elite, and that's like what I always try and like say is like, I don't view myself as an elite or saying
like you're friends with him as well, Mitch Ammons. I joke with him because I'm like, people in Austin think that dude's the best marathoner in the U.S. He's not. He won't say it. Well, he qualifies for the Olympic trials and he'll place like 150th.
Well, all I'm saying is like, I think Mitch is the best runner in the U.S., but that's just me. No, but it's like, I don't know. Like I think it's just like the way that I look, and people are like, Ironmans don't look like that, like they're super skinny because all they do is training. And that's where it goes back to what we had talked about. Like, these guys only see me in this moment. They only see that individual race result and the way I look, and they're like, that's impossible. But they don't see the 10 years of training that I've done beforehand, the different competitions that I've done, the different sports that I've played that have potentially shaped my physique. And now I'm in this, era of my life training for these competitions. That's the reason why I look the way that I do. It's not like I started running and I put on 50 pounds of lean muscle mass while also getting faster. Like, there are different chapters of your life or different training ideologies or focuses, and that's something that I think has been misconstrued for sure.
Can you take me through like the hardest day of training you'll do? Because I want you to develop an understanding for the audience of that hard day and doing that over time, and how their bodies would probably look insane if they did that for 10 years.
Well, it's important to note, like, I have only been doing triathlon training for about almost 3 years now. Like, this is my third year in the sport. My hardest day of training when I am fully healthy, I would say it's usually like a Tuesday, because that's when I do all three of like swim, bike, and run. So swims right now, I'm averaging about 5,000 yards per swim, which is a little bit, I want to say like hour 10 to hour 20 in the pool. So you feel like a raisin after. So first of all, it's like an hour 20 right there. Then I'll go out and I'll hop on the bike, and my bikes right now are, range between 90 minutes to 2.5 hours. So we'll call it 2 hours right there. So that's already 3 hours and 20 minutes or so of training, plus then an hour runoff. That's 4 hours and 20 minutes of your day training. Then you go into the fact that it's like, okay, you have to have nutrition between then. You have to have, mobility, or if I'm icing my ankle, if I'm doing recovery, if I'm going to PT, there's different fluctuations. So it's the fact that when I am fully healthy, I tend to train anywhere between like 3.5 to 4.5 hours in a day. So I would say whenever I do all three in a day, that's definitely the most taxing. And then, as abnormal as it sounds, but normal in the Ironman world, like Saturday, you usually do a long bike ride and then a runoff afterwards. So this past Saturday, I did a century ride. So it was 4.5 hours on the bike. And then later on in the day, I did a 54-minute runoff. So that's, upwards of 5 hours of training in one day. That is very intense and very taxing on the body.
How tired are you when you go to bed most nights?
I sleep like a rock.
Yeah.
Like I have a weighted blanket. My room's pitch black. I would have a nose strip, magnesium glycinate. Like studying neuroscience, the sleep module was the one that I deep dove on. I thought it was so interesting. And I track everything. I have a Whoop, I have a Garmin. Like, I'm always looking at stats. I'm an analytical guy for sure. So yeah, I definitely do sleep like a rock.
Have you ever taken all of your data and put it into Claude with like some crazy prompt?
I have not.
Oh,
no,
dude,
that sounds
totally
so interesting.
Yeah, because Whoop, like if you go on the app with the AI feature now, I will say like, hey, I want you to give me like data that I can then put into like AI. Tell me everything that it needs to know of like the last 90 days. I'll put that in, and then well, it depends on like what I'm doing. When I'm running, I'll wear more of a Garmin, but like right now, just easy runs, gym stuff, I'll wear like my Apple Watch. And Claude has a thing it connects to Apple Health, so it already can pull from it. And it's just crazy where data is going. Like it's remarkable the amount of that's what I'm excited for with AI, at least on a positive lens, is like, dude, I'm telling you, if you spend an hour or two today, you can take all your data from Garmin and put it into Claude and get like some crazy assessment that you would have used to have to pay like $20,000 for.
I'll have to give it a try. I mean, like coming from a STEM major, and I'm just like a very process oriented human being. So being able to understand why things go the way they go, I'd absolutely love to try that. Or just like you said, like being able to share all of my data. And it's like, okay, like predict this, or how can I improvise, or how can I optimize this? Like that's, I live for that. It's so interesting.
Vast majority of your audience, my audience, is younger, and I feel like that's the one audience that neglects sleep. I'm sure you've read like Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. It seems like you're really into sleep. What are 3 ways people can get better sleep?
Yeah, the biggest one that I'll recommend is magnesium glycinate. Essentially, like just to give a quick.
Does it make you groggy? It makes me groggy in the morning.
No, so it depends on your dosage for sure.
Okay.
But like what you have to think about is in your brain you have something called an NMDA receptor, which is I'm gonna try not to get like too sciencey here.
Science class.
NMDA receptor, which is the activity receptor in your brain. So all it takes is an ion to bind to that, and then it simulates activity. Magnesium is the ion that blocks that receptor. So when you think about it, if the receptor is blocked, it can't activate. Therefore, there's less brain activation in your head. That's why magnesium is such a popular supplement for recovery, because it's inhibiting further brain activation, allows your blood flow, because 20% of your blood flow goes to your brain, to then disperse to the muscle area groups that then need to recover. So that's what magnesium. Number 2 is that you definitely need some type of activity throughout the day. It's the difference between like potential and kinetic energy. When you're just sitting around all day, your body just has like a built up amount of energy. And if you aren't expending it in any specific way, you're going to try to go to sleep, and it's going to be a lot more difficult, because it's like, hey, we had all this calories that we consumed throughout the day. This has then become like all this energy, and we're not using it anyway. So some type of physical activity throughout the day, definitely highly recommend. And the last one would probably be the temperature of your room. You want to be in, no, I'm gonna take that back. It's your room needs to be dark, because within your brain, it's like the idea of like the central governor, in which we operate on circadian rhythms. Everything's rhythmic in our brain, and that area of your brain is directly connected to your or the receptors in your eye. So that's why like bright light often stimulates being awake, because it's decreasing the amount of melatonin secretion and then making you be further awake. So you want to, especially towards night when melatonin secretion starts to increase, you want to decrease the amount of light that you're exposed to, so that your brain is kind of like turning down, and it's like kind of signaling, okay, like now it's time to rest.
Central governor theory. Have you seen it? Like the Tim Noakes central governor theory, or read Endurance by Alex Hutchinson?
Yes, I loved Endurance by Alex Hutchinson.
It's so super good. I read that book way back in the day, and that fascinated me. And that book, what was crazy, because I recently talked to Dr. Brad Wilkins. He worked for Nike for a while. He was the guy who basically helped develop the science that a sub 2 hour marathon was possible. So they worked with him leading into Eliud Kipchoge's attempt at 2 hours in Monza, Italy, his first attempt. And he told me this, and Alex writes about this in his book, where you will race faster if the clock is intentionally set a second or two slower than you actually think it is.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that part of your brain in relation to sleep can also like play a role in other endurance things.
Dude, I mean, it's psychoneuroimmunology, which is the direct correlation between your brain and your body's functionality. Like I know like people are like, yeah, of course, but you don't realize that if you are overly stressed out, like if there's an elevated cortisol secretion in your brain, like you can make yourself physically ill. Like your brain has the most amount of power over your physical performance. Like you said, if there is that slight motivation where it's like, I need to pick up faster a little bit, or even like, I think that the counter to that is like, if you're showing a clock that says that you're 1 to 2 seconds ahead of schedule, you might start to like think like, okay, am I going too fast? Am I able to sustain this? And then you're tripping up, getting in your head. There was a chapter about hydration in that book, Endurance by Alex Hutchinson, in which they talked about athletes who literally like drink water, but then spit it out. It tricks your brain into thinking that like you are actually hydrated and that you can continue to run. So there are these mental games. One thing that I actually do during a race is sometimes I'll push my tongue up against my tooth right here, because it's like signaling the nociceptors, the pain receptors, to like draw my attention to that. So it's like if I ever notice my legs are a little bit heavy, it's like, okay, like how can I change what my brain is focused on, so like I don't get in my head and think like, oh my goodness, my legs are gonna cramp and I'm gonna spiral.
It's crazy man. As we wrap up on this podcast, those who follow you on social media, what is it that you want them to feel when they close the app after watching one of your videos?
First of all, that I'm extremely grateful for them and that I appreciate their support. But the biggest thing is that you are capable of accomplishing anything you want in this life. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you are capable of doing so, because if you lack that self-belief, it doesn't matter the amount of work, the amount of objective proof that you might have in front of you. Subjectively, if there's never that connection, it's never going to all come together. And then in addition to that, you have to have the objective proof. You have to do the work to get there. It can't just be this unbacked up self-belief. Like if you set out a goal, like you better do all the work to try and achieve it. And then when it comes time to test to see if you can achieve that goal, like believe that you've done all the work to get there.
Would you say you're proud of yourself? And if not, what would you have to do to gain that pride in yourself?
It's been a hard journey for sure, because as a high achiever, I think anyone can attest to this. Like it's very hard to say you're proud of yourself, because you're constantly in this battle of like, am I capable of doing more? Would admitting that I am proud of myself signify that I'm complacent in where I'm currently at? But I definitely do think that the way in which I carry myself and the way in which I treat other people is what I'm truly proud of these days. I feel like I try my absolute best to make sure I leave every conversation in a more positive tone than not. And I really am proud of the fact that people are turning to me as a means of motivation to change their own life. That is something that I don't take lightly at all. And I carry very much so with me every single day through every single thing that I do.
If you could go back, have coffee, tea, lunch, whatever 12-year-old Luke liked, energy drink, sit down with 12-year-old Luke before going on this crazy journey, event that changes your life entirely, what would you say to him? And you have to say something.
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
give me he'll be fine.
No.
I'm not going to say anything.
I'm just going to remind him that it's okay to be sad. I think for a while I really struggled with, like I'd said, like I feared the idea of being victimized, which both propelled me to be an exceptionally hard worker, but also resulted in me repressing a significant amount of my emotions. And I think if I would have given myself more grace at the fact that I was a very young kid trying to figure out a lot, it wouldn't have affected me in the way of like, oh, maybe I wouldn't have been such a hard worker. It would have probably helped me out a lot more to just realize that I'm human and that I don't have to be perfect, and that I don't have to have everything figured out. So yeah, just tell my kid, share your struggles, man. It's okay to not be okay for a little bit, but just know like everything will work out in the end.
Love it, man. It's so unrealistic for us to think that life will always be an upswing, always be happy. And it's so cliche, but it's like there can be no sunshine without rain. It's what provides texture to emotions. And one of my favorite responses to like, why does God allow suffering in the world? It's like, we wouldn't know any positive emotion if there wasn't negative emotion. We'd literally be his puppets.
Yeah.
If we never felt any negative emotion, if nothing negative ever happened. And that's why we're given free will. And so, if you're a listener going through something hard, like, man, I'm sure you relate to this or can speak to this. Like, the hardest periods in your life are damn the hardest periods in your life, but they're some of the richest, most rewarding if you can get on the other side.
Yeah. And it's not if, but when you get on the other side.
Yeah,
because what I often think back to is there were times in my life where I felt so deep in the hole and felt like, man, like I'm stuck. And then what you do realize is that you've made it past every single negative experience in your life so far. Like up until this point, like you've come out successful of every bad day that you've had. So by reminding yourself that no matter what, like you are going to continue to keep going forward. Every day gets a little bit easier. Doing it every day is the hard part. That's fulfilling. And that's what's going to help you to make it out on the other side.
Final question for you. The motto of the podcast company, my life is helping people turn their what ifs into reality. It's born on the idea of like 8th grade, had the idea of starting a podcast, had a what if I start a podcast, took me some time to act on it, but taking action on that what if and the reality that's, stemmed from it is absolutely remarkable. I mean, even this, like we're in Nick's studio, record a podcast with a legend. Like this is amazing. What is a what if in your life that you've taken action on, and how has taking action on that what if changed your life?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one is by far like, what if I started sharing my life on social media, and I was just like, what if this helps people? I have a note in my phone. I don't have my phone on me, but I wrote out like a 10-year plan before I started posting on social media. And like the whole identity of it was behind the idea of helping other individuals through physical and mental health. So that was my entire back end. It's like why I started posting on social media, and what it's gotten me to is everything, and like where I am currently at in my life right now. And it's something that I'm extremely grateful for. So
it's amazing.
I also love that motto. Like that's phenomenal. Turning what ifs into reality.
And that's, I think I want to have a motto for my life that is outward facing, that is bigger than me. And it's like helping people turn their what ifs into reality. And then hopefully living a life inspiring enough that people can see, oh, he's taking action on the what ifs. And one of my favorite sayings is like, if you risk nothing, you risk even more. And showing people through my own life that like I take risks, I fail, and like it's going to be okay. And hopefully through the small, hopefully seemingly great things that I do, I can inspire other people to do great things. So
yeah, absolutely. And a big thing that we talked about in like my psychology classes too is like, obviously we have the desire to help as many people as possible, but like it's okay if you only help one person. Like it's okay if throughout the day, like the only kind thing you did for someone else is just held the door for them one time. Like it doesn't have to be these grand gestures every single day of I'm donating every single thing that I have to charity, or like that. Like it's just like the continual progression of considering others in our own lives and like allowing ourselves to have even a micro positive influence on them. That's what it's all about.
Amen. I'll close this out with this. So morning of the first podcast I ever recorded. So this was July 17, 2020. I had just finished freshman year of high school. So I was like absolutely young and had no clue what I was doing. I like used to journal back in the day all the time. And I was like so nervous. So I journaled, said this title, Podcast Thoughts, July 6, 2020, 9:50 a.m. I like love how I document the time.
Everything.
I said, wow, we might have made it. I've been thinking about starting a podcast for well over a year now. Today is finally the day where I break the streak of being fearful. I really think fear kept me away from starting one. Fear of what others might think, fear of numbers, fear of making a subpar product. Well, today I break that fear. I'm recording with Alex at 3 p.m. today. I'm very nervous, but also excited. I just need to disband all fear and step into the unknown. We're going to make something special. Time to take a leap of faith.
That was you as a freshman in high school?
Yeah, and it's cool. I'm so glad I documented that thought that I was feeling and sharing it with other people of like, oh, I was terrified before starting this thing and I had no clue what it would become. But I think that line, like, it's time to step into the unknown is so powerful. And I'm sure you felt something similar before you posted your first video. I have no clue what other people will think of me, but like this could be the ride of a lifetime. And more importantly, not even for other people, but for myself.
Totally.
Right now, this podcast, it's for, I'll take you in a little bit of consideration. It's for you and it's for me and no one else. You know, if two people listen to this podcast, it's like, well, I was benefited from the conversation I had with a remarkable individual. And if other people listen, great. If they don't, they don't. But the best podcast, the best product, it's like things that you would put out there if no one else was watching.
Yeah.
Throwing bagels at the wall because it's fun to do, not because people think it's funny.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally, man. Yeah. And I just want to say too, like everyone who's ever done something exceptional in their life, done something great, like has had fears like that of like, what are other people going to think about me if I do something out of the norm? Or what if I try and it doesn't work out? Anytime before a race, like there are nerves. And if you ask someone before a race how they're feeling and they didn't say they were slightly nervous, I'd say they're lying. Even the pros. Yeah, exactly. So in acknowledging that, but not allowing that to inhibit you, that's the big thing. And I think that's what a lot of individuals struggle with. It's like, oh, I'm scared to get started because like, what if it doesn't work out? You got to be able to imagine.
What if it does?
The best possible case scenario too. Like it's a coin flip. And if it doesn't work out, that means it wasn't meant to, but it means that you are now presented with more learning experiences in your life that then you could pursue something else.
If you were the main character in a movie of which you are of your own life, which is a movie, what would you do? You probably wouldn't play it safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Great frame, and then we'll actually wrap this up. I can talk to you all day. Is like, would your life be exciting for you to watch if it was a movie?
I love it.
It would probably be hella boring if you got a 9-to-5 and took the conventional path. Not saying everyone's made for social media, made to create a business, made to be a professional athlete. But what is the thing that sets your soul on fire that you can't wait to get out of bed and do, that you know provides value to the world? Do that thing, chase that thing. As I said before, if you risk nothing, you risk even more. That, to me, is a way more exciting life to follow than the, I know that I'm okay if I take this path, so I'm going to take this path.
Yeah.
You'd throw popcorn, you'd throw an apple at the wall. You'd be like, boo, this movie sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, like, it's all about pursuing your passion, you know? Pursuing one's passion is a quote that I kind of, like, try and live by, but, like, if doing Excel is your passion, you know, pursue it, you know, and be the best at it. You know, if wanting to be an Ironman pro athlete is your passion, pursue it and try to be the best at it. If wanting to be the best podcast in the world is it, you know, pursue it wholeheartedly. Like you said, like have something that gets you out of bed in the morning and live for it. Work your absolute hardest at it.
And remember, no one can beat you at being you. The best Luke Hopkins I can be is the second best Luke Hopkins out there, and that's not impressive. So, in the podcast world, everyone wants to, emulate Joe Rogan. The best Joe Rogan I can be is the second best Joe Rogan, but I can be the best Dominic Schluter. So lean into what makes you you, and you'll be unbeatable. Try to be one of one, not like, comparing yourself to others, trying to beat others.
Amen, man.
So, Luke, you're the man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you so much.